Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Sleep Hotel. Every evening when you arrive here, the soft glow of lanterns lights your path, guiding you toward the grand doors. They open without a sound, and at once the world outside and its worries begins to fade away. Within these walls, time slows. Gentle lamplight spills across polished floors, and the hush of the corridors seems to hold you in quiet safety. This is a place for you to rest. Take a seat in the cushioned chair by the fire. Feel the fabric beneath you, the quiet strength of the room around you. Let the glow of the hearth and the hush of the lobby hold you, like an old friend welcoming you home. Now, take a slow, easy breath. Inhale deeply and let it out with ease. Do it again in and out. With every breath, imagine setting down the weight of the day, as if you've been carrying too many bags, and now, at last, you can let them go. As you breathe, you may find your body softening. Your shoulders release their tension. Your jaw loosens. Even your hands, which have worked so hard today, begin to relax. Thoughts may still come, but they don't need to stay. Let them drift away, like quiet footsteps fading down a hallway. The Sleep Hotel waits for you patiently, inviting you deeper into stillness. There is no rush, no expectation, just peace. Allow yourself to feel gratitude for this moment, for the simple gift of being alive, for the shelter of your room, for the chance to rest. Know that you deserve this. We all do. And now, as you breathe a little easier, imagine yourself walking further inside the hotel. The lamps glow softly in the evening hush, and one door seems to shine a little brighter than the rest. It has been waiting for you. Tonight, that door will open, and its story will become your dream. The old motor car, a faithful but weary beast of burden, had given its last sputter miles back, leaving Everly standing on a forgotten mountain road as the sky deepened from bruised purple to an inky black. The rain was not a gentle patter, but a relentless, drumming downpour, each drop a cold needle against her skin. She pulled her thin coat tighter, the fabric offering little resistance to the wind that howled through the towering pines, making them sway like gloomy giants. With a deep breath that did little to calm the flutter of anxiety in her chest, she hefted her suitcase and trudged forward, guided only by the faint, hopeful glow of a lantern she had spotted far below, a single golden eye winking through the veils of water. The path was slick with wet needles and mud, and each step was a careful negotiation. The world reduced to the small circle of light from her own flickering torch and the distant promise of shelter. It felt as though she had walked for an eternity, her clothes soaked through and her spirits dampened, when finally the outline of a gate emerged from the gloom, and beyond it, the source of the light, a large, welcoming building of dark timber and warm stone, with a sign that creaked gently in the wind, proclaiming it the Sleep Hotel. Pushing the iron gate open, its hinge groaning a low, rusty welcome, Everly entered a courtyard that seemed to exist in a different world. The fury of the storm was instantly muted, softened by the rustling leaves of a great, ancient willow tree that draped its protective branches over the gravel path. The air here was fragrant with the scent of wet earth and night-blooming jasmine, a calming balm after the sharp, cold rain. Light spilled from leaded glass windows, casting buttery squares onto the damp stones, and from within came the faint, inviting crackle of a fire. The hotel itself was not grand in an imposing way, but rather in its solidity and warmth. It looked as if it had grown from the mountain itself, a natural sanctuary for weary travelers. With a final, grateful sigh, she climbed the few steps to a stout oak door, above which a copper lantern swung, its light steady and unwavering. Her hand, cold and trembling, reached for the heavy iron knocker, shaped like a sleeping owl. But before she could lift it, the door swung inward without a sound, revealing a pool of golden light and a figure standing within. The man who stood in the doorway was tall and lean, dressed in a soft, gray woolen waistcoat that looked as comfortable as an old friend. His face was lined with the gentle traces of time and kindness, and his eyes, the color of a calm sea, held a deep, immediate sense of peace. "We have been expecting you," he said, his voice a low, melodic rumble that seemed to harmonize with the rain on the roof. He introduced himself as Elias, the keeper of the Sleep Hotel, and gestured for her to enter. Everly stepped over the threshold, and as she did, the weight of the storm, the chill in her bones, and the worry of her broken journey simply fell away, as if shed like a wet cloak. She found herself in a vast, circular lobby dominated by a great stone hearth, where a fire crackled and danced, its light playing across walls lined with bookshelves that reached to a shadowy, beamed ceiling. The air was rich with the smells of old books, beeswax polish, and a hint of lavender. It was quiet, a deep, resonant quiet that seemed to absorb sound rather than echo it, a silence that felt like a soft blanket being drawn over her shoulders. Elias took her suitcase, which seemed to disappear into the comforting gloom of a nearby alcove, and guided her towards the roaring fire. A journey ended in the rain deserves a proper welcome, he murmured, his footsteps making no sound on the thick patterned rug that covered the flagstone floor. Everly sank into the deep embrace of a worn velvet armchair that faced the hearth, its cushions sighing softly as they accepted her weight. She held her hands out to the flames, feeling the heat begin to seep back into her numb fingers. A slow, delicious thawing that spread through her entire body. The fire was a living thing, a mesmerizing dance of orange and gold. Each lick and curl a tiny story of warmth and light against the dark, rainy night outside the diamond-paned windows. She could hear the rain now only as a distant rhythmic shushing, a lullaby played on the roof tiles, a sound that made the warmth and safety within feel all the more precious. The room was furnished with other deep chairs and small tables, each with a reading lamp casting a soft, intimate pool of light, and in one corner, a grandfather clock ticked with a slow, somnolent rhythm, its pendulum swinging like a hypnotist's watch. After a few moments, Elias returned, carrying a tray bearing a tall ceramic mug from which rose plumes of fragrant steam. "This is our special blend for rainy nights," he said, placing it on the small table beside her. "Drinking chocolate, with a whisper of vanilla, a pinch of cinnamon from Ceylon, and just a touch of honey from our own hives out back." Everly wrapped her hands around the mug, feeling its comforting heat, and brought it to her lips. The first sip was pure, velvety magic. It was not merely a drink, but an experience, a rich, deep chocolate that warmed her from the inside out, the subtle spices dancing on her tongue, and the honey providing a gentle, floral sweetness that lingered. As she drank, she felt the last vestiges of the cold and her travel weariness dissolve, replaced by a profound and heavy contentment. She noticed other small details then, the way the firelight caught the silver threads in the rug, the faint, sweet scent of the lavender that seemed to be woven into the very fabric of the chair, the peaceful, sleeping face of a ceramic cat curled on the mantelpiece. It was then that a second figure emerged from a hallway that Everly hadn't noticed before. An older woman, with a cloud of soft white hair and eyes that twinkled with quiet amusement, moved with a graceful, unhurried pace towards the fire. She carried a knitting basket, and nestled within it was a project of what looked like an impossibly soft dove-gray yarn. "This is Mathilde," Elias said, his voice softening even further. "She is our resident dream weaver, you might say." Mathilde smiled, her face crinkling into a map of kindness. "The storm sings a powerful song tonight," she said, her voice like the rustling of dry leaves. It pulls at the threads of worry, but here, by the fire, the threads can be woven back into something softer, something meant for rest. She settled into the chair opposite Everly and began to knit, her needles clicking together in a soft, rhythmic counterpoint to the ticking clock and the distant rain. The sound was not intrusive, but deeply soothing, a gentle, metronomic promise that all was well, that there was no need to rush, that the only task at hand was to simply be and to rest. After Everly had finished the last sweet dregs of her chocolate, Elias picked up a large brass key from a hook behind the desk, a key that looked as ancient as the hotel itself, with a bow shaped like a crescent moon and a shaft that was heavy and ornate. "I will show you to your room," he said. "Room number 7. It has a particular affinity for nights like these." They left the cozy circle of the hearthlight and entered a long, quiet hallway. The walls were paneled in dark, polished wood and were hung with tapestries depicting serene landscapes, misty valleys, silent forests under a blanket of snow, and calm, star-dusted seas. The air was cooler here and carried the faint, clean scent of linen and dried lavender. Their footsteps were utterly silent on the deep, forest-green runner that carpeted the hall. Small, shaded sconces cast a dim, golden light at intervals, creating pools of illumination that guided the way while leaving the ceiling and the far ends of the hall in a comfortable, dreaming darkness. It felt less like a corridor in a hotel and more like a path through a tranquil, slumbering wood. Elias moved slowly, his manner implying that there was no destination more important than the peaceful journey itself. "The Sleep Hotel has stood here for a very long time," he explained, his voice a low murmur that blended with the quiet. It was built on a place of deep rest, a nexus of calm. The stones in the foundation, they say, were blessed by a weary queen who found solace here, and the beams in the ceiling were carved from trees that knew only the sound of the wind and the birds. Every guest who has ever found peace within these walls leaves a little of that peace behind, adding to the tranquility. As he spoke, Everly could almost feel the silence listening, the very atmosphere seeming to absorb his words and radiate a deeper calm. They passed a large, arched window that looked out into the storm-tossed night. But from this side of the glass, the rain seemed like a soft silver curtain, and the thunder was only a distant, gentle drumming, a rhythm that seemed to slow the heart and quiet the mind. She felt a profound detachment from her earlier troubles, as if they belonged to another person in another life. Finally, they stopped before a door made of pale, smooth ash wood, on which the number 7 was carved in elegant, flowing script. Elias inserted the heavy key into the lock, and it turned with a deep, satisfying clunk that echoed softly in the hall. He pushed the door open and stepped aside. "Rest well, Everly," he said. "Should you need anything, you need only think it, and the hotel will listen. But I suspect you will find that all you need is already here." He handed her the key and retreated back down the hallway, his form melting into the soft shadows until only the comforting silence remained. Everly stepped into her room, and her breath caught in her throat. It was perfect. A large, four-poster bed dominated the space, heaped with pillows and covered with a thick duvet, the color of a stormy sky. A small fire flickered in a grate, and on a bedside table, a lamp with a stained glass shade cast a soft, rosy light. The windows here, too, showed the rain, but it was a muted, gentle spectacle. On the bedside table, next to the lamp, was a small porcelain bell and a little note that read, "For dreams of gentle seas." She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that she had arrived exactly where she was meant to be. Though the bed looked immensely inviting, a pull towards the quiet mystery of the hotel drew Everly back out into the hallway. She decided to explore just a little, following the soft glow of the sconces. The hallway curved gently, and soon she found herself standing before an open doorway from which spilled a warmer, more golden light. Peering inside, she discovered a library that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were endless shelves of books, their leather and cloth bindings creating a tapestry of muted colors, deep blues, rich burgundies, forest greens. A ladder on a brass rail slid silently along the stacks, and high above, a glass ceiling revealed the dark, rainy sky, now looking like a swirling canvas of black silk. The room was filled with an even deeper silence, the kind that is cultivated by thousands of sleeping stories. Here and there, in cozy nooks, were more armchairs and sofas, each with a soft throw blanket draped over its arm. In one of these chairs, illuminated by a reading lamp, sat the third guest of the hotel, a man with a kind, thoughtful face, gently turning the pages of a large, illustrated book. The man looked up as she entered and offered a small, peaceful smile. "It's quite something, isn't it?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper, as if not to disturb the slumbering books. "I'm Arthur. I come here every year during the first big storm of autumn. It's the best time to visit." He gestured to the book open on his lap. It was filled with beautiful maps of constellations and mythical lands. Elias calls this the Library of Slumberous Tales. The books here, they are not like ordinary books. You don't so much read them as feel them. They are stories written not to excite, but to soothe. stories of meandering rivers, of slow-growing trees, of clouds drifting across a summer sky. Everly ran her fingers along the spine of a nearby volume. It was bound in a soft, velvety material and embossed with a pattern of swirling mist. She didn't pull it out, but she could have sworn she felt a gentle, rhythmic pulse, like a slow heartbeat, emanating from within. The very air in the room felt thick with tranquility, a palpable presence that encouraged slow breaths and quiet thoughts. Arthur gently closed his book, the sound a soft sigh. This one is about a tailor who mends the clothes of the moon, he said with a quiet chuckle. Each stitch is a star, and each night he repairs the celestial fabric. It's not a story of adventure, but of quiet, meticulous care. It's the perfect story to read before sleep, as it makes your own thoughts feel like careful, peaceful stitches in the tapestry of the night. He stood up and placed the book back on its shelf, where it seemed to settle in with a contented little shuffle. The library has a way of giving you the story you need. Sometimes I just wander the aisles with my eyes closed and let my hand find a book. It's never been wrong. He bid Everly good night with a nod and slipped out, leaving her alone in the vast, silent room. She stood for a long moment, breathing in the scent of old paper and peace, feeling the quiet hum of 1,000 gentle stories waiting to be dreamed rather than read. She knew she would return here, but for now, the call of the soft bed in room number 7 was growing stronger, a gentle, irresistible pull towards rest. Returning to her room, Everly found that a subtle change had taken place in her absence. The fire had burned down to a bed of glowing, ruby-red embers that pulsed gently with warmth. The lamp on the bedside table had been dimmed even further, and on the pillow lay a small silk pouch filled with dried lavender and hops, its fragrance a whispered promise of deep sleep. She changed into the soft cotton nightgown that had been laid out for her. It was impossibly comfortable, as if woven from clouds and slipped between the sheets. The bed embraced her perfectly, the mattress firm yet yielding, the duvet a comforting weight that made her feel safe and anchored. She lay on her back, looking up at the canopy of the bed, and listened. The storm was still present, but its character had been completely transformed by the magic of the Sleep Hotel. The wind was no longer a shriek, but a low, humming breath flowing around the sturdy walls. The rain was a steady, soothing patter on the roof, a rhythm as natural and calming as a heartbeat. She closed her eyes and allowed the sounds to wash over her, not as a disturbance, but as a gentle lullaby composed just for her. The rain was the percussion, a soft, endless shushing sound. The distant rumble of thunder was a deep, resonant cello note, felt more than heard, that seemed to vibrate through the floor and up into the bed, a soothing tremble that loosened every tight muscle. She could even hear, very faintly, the regular slow ticking of the grandfather clock from the lobby, a steady metronomic anchor in the night. And beneath it all, there was the silence of the hotel itself, a deep, velvety quiet that held all these sounds the way a cup holds water, preventing them from spilling over into chaos. She thought of Elias with his calm, sea-colored eyes, and Matilda clicking her peaceful needles, and Arthur reading his celestial tale in the library. She felt connected to them, not by conversation, but by a shared state of profound rest, of fellowship, of tranquility. They were all separate, yet together, held in the safe, gentle palm of this quiet place. As she drifted on the edge of sleep, guided imagery began to bloom naturally in her mind. Inspired by the hotel's atmosphere, she imagined she was not in a bed, but in a small, perfectly secure boat, drifting down a wide, slow-moving river under a canopy of stars. The rain was a gentle shower of flower petals falling from the dark branches overhead, each one landing on the water with a soft flip that sent out tiny shimmering rings. The sound of the wind was the rustling of the leaves, a whispered secret. With each breath in, she felt the boat glide forward, and with each breath out, she felt herself sink deeper into the cushions at the bottom of the boat, becoming heavier, more relaxed. The worries of the day, the stress of her broken journey, they were all left on the riverbank, growing smaller and more indistinct with every gentle, rhythmic pull of the current, until they faded from view entirely, and there was only the soft, dark water, the starry sky, and the peaceful, endless drift. Sleep did not crash over Everly like a wave. It crept in like a gentle tide, slowly and steadily, until she was fully submerged in its warm, dark embrace. She was aware of slipping away, of the conscious world dissolving like sugar in a cup of tea, sweetly and without resistance. The last thing she felt was the soft weight of the duvet. The last thing she heard was the harmonious symphony of the gentle storm, the ticking clock, and the deep, listening silence of the hotel. Her breathing slowed, matching the slow, pendulous swing of the clock in the lobby. Each exhale a release of the final, tiny fragments of the day's tension. Her mind, which had been a flutter of thoughts and images, grew still and smooth like the surface of a mountain lake at dawn. In this state, between waking and dreaming, She felt a final, profound sense of gratitude for the shelter, for the warmth, for the simple, profound gift of peace. She dreamed, but they were not dreams of narrative or drama. They were dreams of sensation and feeling. She dreamed of walking through a forest where the sunlight fell in dappled pools on a floor of soft moss, and the only sound was the cheerful chirping of distant birds. She dreamed of floating on her back in a calm, warm sea, looking up at a sky filled with slow drifting cotton wool clouds. The dreams were fluid and gentle, each one a soft brushstroke on the canvas of the night, each one deepening her rest. The magic of the sleep hotel worked its way into her very being, untangling the knots of stress and weaving in their place threads of serene contentment. The storm outside, now fully tamed into a backdrop of white noise, continued to sing its lullaby, a constant, reassuring presence that spoke of the world being washed clean, of a fresh start waiting with the dawn.